Ta-da-dee.
Is that your beard combing song? Is that how you soothe it?
There, beard. It'll all be over soon. Welcome to the third episode of Arts Anyway, episode 3, the third episode. I'm your host, Aaron Duran, and this is the third time that I will be hosting this episode, which is episode 3. We have a delightful little show for you in my, as we established in episode 2, the second episode, my oh so humble opinion. It is known, Khaleesi.
No.
Are Game of Thrones references like a faux pas now?
They're certainly cliche.
Okay. We hope you have been keeping safe, washing your hands, following the very important rules that have been laid out for us. Let's flatten this curve. AF. Am I using that right?
Don't look at me.
Our first submission this week is from Veronika Anissimova. Veronika is a recent U of T graduate with a master's in historical voice performance. She writes, I have been preparing several recital programs and actively working in Toronto's professional choral scene. But all of my performances for the coming couple of months have been cancelled. Yay! As a prospective 2020 Art of Song Fellow with the Toronto Summer Music Festival, I really hope the festival will be able to take place as planned, and I'm keeping busy in isolation by learning new recital rep. Good call, Veronika. Have a listen to this fantastic bit of Bolcom. You know, I have a historical voice performance degree as well from UBC. Mine was primarily focused on 90s music, like Goo Goo Dolls, Blur, The Verve. Pro tip for you performance majors who want to master in 90s music, make sure you don't sing Any vowels, make sure you curl the vowel inward. The best example of this, and probably the most authentic of 90s music, is Creed. Listen to them for a snapshot of the late 90s.
It used to be that you loved me, but now it's 1990, and I have to set you free. The letter A, the A, the A, the letter A. Thank you.
Can you give us a quick demonstration of that technique?
Yeah. When I was wide open, under the sunlight.
That was inspiring.
Thank you. Our second submission is from a dear friend of mine, Eva Tavares. I mean, all my friends are dear. Not like dear, but dear.
Metaphorical deer.
Yeah, not literal dear. Although I do probably have some dear friends that I've lost track with over the years. Eva Tavares is a first-generation Canadian, part-time farm girl, part-time triple threat, originally hailing from the West Coast. It's hard for her to truly determine where home is at this moment because she's been bouncing around for the last 5 years. But for now, she's quarantined in the snowy wilderness of BC and riding the waves. Having just left 2 years on a Broadway national tour, Eva was confronting the unknown before COVID struck. The feelings that have been coming up during this time have been truly erratic. 1 minute, she's been loving the opportunity to Netflix and chill. The next, she is waist deep in social media provoked fear. Eva submitted a Sondheim piece from Into the Woods, and sung by Cinderella, and she writes, "I believe we can find some solace in Cinderella's plight. She finds herself in a sticky situation, forced to face her own mind." Sound familiar? By the end, she realizes she can just sit in it and see what happens next. Just be. Decisions and next steps don't have to be clear right away. Easier said than done, we know. But this could just be a reminder that even when you feel like you're hobbling around on one shoe and the future looks bleak, the only thing to do is move forward one step at a time. Absolutely correct, my friend, my dear friend.
Did you know that you have a Sondheim poster in the background?
Destiny.
He's a very smart prince. He's a prince who prepares, knowing this time I'd run from him. He spread pitch on the stairs. I was caught unawares, and I thought, well, he cares. This is more than just malice. Better stop and take stock while you're standing here stuck on the steps of the palace. You think, what do you want? You think, make a decision. Why not stay and be caught? You think, well, that's a thought. What would be his response? But then what if you knew who you were when you know that you're not what he thinks that he wants? Then what if you are what a prince would envision? So how can you know who you are till you know what you want, what you don't? So then which do you pick when you're safe out of sight and yourself, but where everything's wrong? Or where everything's right and you know that you'll never be long? And whichever you pick, do it quick, cause you're starting to stick to the steps of the palace. It's your first big decision. The choice isn't easy to make. To arrive at a ball is exciting, you know once you're there, though it's scary. It's fun to deceive when you know you can leave, but you have to be wary. There's a lot that's at stake and you've stalled long enough cause you're still standing stuck in the stuff on the steps. Better run along home and avoid a collision. Even though they don't care, you'll be better off there where there's nothing to choose, so there's nothing to lose. So you pry up your shoes, never out of the blue, and without any guide, you know what your decision is, which is not to decide. You'll just leave him a clue. For example, a shoe. And then see what he'll do. Then it's he and not you who is stuck with a shoe in a stew.
Our man remotely in the field, which is a phrase I will never get tired of saying, Keith Lam, had a chat with one of Toronto's indie opera pillars, Alaina Viau. Viau is a daring Canadian opera director, creator, and producer who challenges the mainstream of the classical music experience. She's the founder and artistic director of Loose Tea Music Theatre, where she collaborates with DJs and production artists and choreographers and filmmakers to produce genre-breaking productions. One of my favorite parts of the discussion that Keith and Alaina had is their talk on a concept Alaina's been compiling from over 3 years of dealing with a life-altering brain injury and the work she's had to do in order to recover, as well as the continuing efforts to maintain her day-to-day. Pulling from her own experiences and research, with assistance from her therapist and Dr. Shalia Vaidya's concussion recovery program, she realized that she may be able to turn her own hardships into something that she can offer to friends, colleagues, and the general public. She calls this concept radical self-compassion. In the coming days, we'll be posting a bit more about that, so keep your eyes peeled on our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook. This radical self-compassion thing is pretty exciting. Alaina's a very hard worker. It's a privilege to know her and to collaborate with her on this and give it a little bit more exposure. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm very excited.
You're the founder and artistic director of one of Toronto's indie opera companies, Loose Tea Music Theatre, and you guys collaborate with so many different artists besides, classical musicians. You guys bring in DJs, you guys bring in choreographers, filmmakers, projection artists, to create some very, very unique shows.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things that I love so much is that you through Loose Tea you developed an improv show called Whose Opera Is It Anyway? And I'm a huge fan of. So for those who don't know, the name really gives it away. It is a comedy and opera experience inspired by the TV show Whose Line Is It Anyway? Who was the host? Drew Carey, right?
Yeah, Drew Carey was the original host.
Hold on a second. I feel like I attended your very first one and then a few more after.
So it started a good 2.5 years ago. I think the first show was June, 28th or something. I think I just saw it come up in my Facebook memories 2 Junes ago. I guess 2018. It was inspired by Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I kind of thought, I think we could do this as a show. And I had actually played with the idea a couple years prior as a fundraiser. And Michael York was actually in that, so he has been there for a long time. And we kind of prototyped the idea then and found that it really worked. And then I just really needed to do it and find the people, because really it's the people that make this incredible.
Absolutely. And how did you end up finding the cast? These people are incredible. I think all of them are friends of mine as well. They're just so funny and so brave, I would say, to do improv, because as classical musicians, we are trained to recreate something that has been practiced over and over and over again. And here they are, doing improv on the spot, not just acting, but also singing a bunch of things that just comes out of their heads.
The levels of things going on is kind of incredible, because unlike Whose Line, they're not just making up the words, they're also making up the music and trying to bring in, classical music tropes that either we can make fun of or, put in a different light. And I had a couple people in mind, and then Greg Finney and I sat down, and he gave me some other people who I should reach out to, and And then I did put a call out as well to anyone who might be brave enough to come, and we took a weekend with Carly Heffernan, who is an incredible writer and comedy writer and improv artist, and she worked with us for a weekend. So we did a weekend of trying to figure out what this might be or how it could work. Just kind of went, well, let's try it and see what we can do, and it turned out incredibly. So then we just kept working on it and refining ideas and the games that worked best. And yeah, it went for a good 2 years. Right now we're on pause as I had many other shows happening and as we restructure things and think about what we want to do for the future. So not sure if it's going to continue, but it definitely was amazing while it was happening.
Absolutely. I remember attending one of them, and one of the very first ones, and you guys decided that you would use me as a prop, I guess, kind of a prop. Well, not me specifically, but you guys played a game where you asked one of the audience members to offer their Instagram account and sing about it.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That was hilarious.
Do you remember that? That was so crazy because I warned everybody about, you know, how personal I am on my Instagram.
I do recall a line that Jillian Grossman sang, which was a dick on a dick on a dick.
It was quite an evening, and I'm glad everybody can laugh about it and just, you know, have a ball with it. Yeah, everybody that you brought in, you know, Michael York, Aaron Stone, Jillian Grossman, Amanda Kogan. Who else is also in that group?
Well, Natasha was our pianist
right.
as well, which is a huge responsibility to play through the entire thing. And I mean, they were working together as well as a team, as a musical team, and were working off each other and would give each other things to grow on. So it really was a great team effort that they did on stage together.
Yeah, and what a skill to have, really, to, you know, it only kind of enhances you as a performer. You know, like I said, you know, as classical musicians, we're so trained to just recreate everything that was rehearsed over and over and over again. And sometimes, you know, things kind of veer off and people don't know how to recover.
I mean, they told me that it was just so enjoyable and freeing to be able to create organically on stage. And then we also turned it into a workshop and did it at Queen's University, because at the opera.ca conference 2 years ago in September, they were talking about, you know, the gap or what is not being taught at universities or taught to students. And one of them was that, you know, you have to have many different skills as a singer. And I was talking with the administration there, and Rachel Krem actually connected us, and we made this workshop where we went and taught their students. And it just kind of opened up this whole new world to them, because we were so used to taking the music and interpreting what's there, but instead having that music in your back pocket and knowing about it and being like, well, now I can kind of play with it and create something on my own. And they found it incredibly useful and freeing. And I think it's something that maybe we should do more of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's something I wish, you know, it is in the school system. Like, you know, for any performing arts degree or, you know, a certificate program, definitely is something that everybody can use.
Yes.
Think on the spot.
Think on the spot.
My God. Terrifying. I mean, I keep telling people, yeah, do it. Do some acting class, do some dance class, and I'm terrified of all of them.
But being terrified is good, because it means that you're learning something. And although we will probably not be the greatest at it when we start, that's the whole point.
Absolutely. So what are some of the, I guess some of the tips? I bet, you know, a lot of our listeners would be really interested in hearing how do we cope with this, you know, weird time of self-isolation? Because a lot of people, you know, not with concussions, but you know, a lot of people are dealing with this alone. You know, what are some of your tips?
So, first of all, thank you so much for letting me talk about this, because I realized, I was like, oh, I have tools that I've learned, and they've taken years. This stuff takes years to learn, but the more you become aware of it, the more you can kind of piece together your plan of how you want to deal with your emotions and things that come up. So first of all, self-isolation, social distancing is hard. It's hard. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Anything that you're feeling, all of it. It is totally okay. And you'll find that stress will kind of show up in two different ways. And one of them is a hyper arousal, where you've probably felt where you're suddenly buzzing, your mind is racing, you have anxiety, maybe even your heart starts to beat a little faster, or hypoarousal, which is numbing, shutting down, just not being able to do anything. And you
I am definitely I am definitely one of those people. I feel like sometimes my mind is just racing, and sometimes I just feel like I don't want to do anything. I just want to feel like a blob.
Totally. And both of those states are fine. I mean, what we need to know is that our bodies do these to protect us. So there's a fear, there's stress, and our body is doing these things to protect ourselves. But then we also need to know kind of how to deal with it, because they are very overwhelming. And you kind of think, like, what's wrong with me sometimes?
Yeah.
So.
And you also said that we should name these things out loud, right? You should just acknowledge that, you know, there's anger, there's fear, there's sadness.
Totally. I mean, if you are able to vocalize them, maybe even to another person, like even yesterday, I was reading about the news in New York, which is just so heartbreaking, and I felt myself getting high, like I could feel the frenzy happening. So I went to my boyfriend and I was like, I'm feeling anxious, and I'm feeling the stress from that, and I'm feeling anxious for my friends and sad for them, and there's like all these emotions, and I'm like, I just need to tell you that I'm feeling these things. Because once you're able to like say the words of what they are, even if you're not sure, but just start exploring, then they're kind of away from you. They're not attached to you as much anymore. That's very interesting. It just reminded me all of a sudden that I've done some guided meditation during these times, and I remember one of the meditation, you know, the voice was saying that you are not your fear. Yeah. And I thought, and I took that, and I was like, wow, that really, really helped me sort of separate my anxiety and my fear, because I am not. That's just something I feel, but it's not part of me. And the more I think about it, it really sort of calm me down. Yeah, and it's more like, yes, you are feeling anger, and anger is there, but you are not angry. Like you don't have to be angry. And it's naming it and being like, yes, it is here, and I'm feeling anger, and I'm feeling frustration, or I'm feeling sadness, and you can feel those things, but they don't have to take you over.
No, and it's also shame was something that you wanted to talk about as well, because, you know, we feel guilty for feeling all of these things.
So much guilt. That was one of like the biggest things that I've been working on, is my own self-guilt. And I think as artists, we're so good at guilting ourselves into things. And it's not a very healthy practice, let's just say.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This was Arts Anyway, Episode 3, the third episode of Infinity Episodes. If you like this, please like and share and subscribe and all that cheesy stuff that I am supposed to say at the end of every video. We love your input. We love hearing back from you. Talk to us. If there's anything you feel we should include in a show, let us know.
Rollin', 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 keep those doggies rollin'. What's the song?
Why is it dogs rolling?
Is that actually it? I thought
Yeah.
I made it up.
No, it's... been loving the opportunity to Netflix and chill. A minute. She's been loving the opportunity to Netflix and chill. Try to limit your social media consumption. It's a silly place. She is a recent U of T graduate with a master's in historical voice performance. Performance. Thank you so much for joining us for Arts Anyway Together 100 Years. Our second submission is from a fantastic friend of mine. All my friends are fantastic.